Hey guys, this is episode 3 of the Seeing Red podcast here. As you can see, I'm on vacation in beautiful Honolulu, Hawaii here. So as you can see, this is downtown Honolulu, outside on the balcony from my hotel room. So I knew I had to get this video in since it is Friday, day before the UFC Fight Night card back at the Apex for Blanchfield versus Andrade. Just to kind of give a quick recap on this one. I know it's not a giant card or anything like that, so I'll kind of be brief with the fights that I'm really looking forward to watching here, which, I mean, to be honest, there's not really a lot. I apologize for the sirens down there. Yeah, seems to be Honolulu police right now doing that for someone, but and that means cracking my mid-afternoon monster can just to keep the day going. Just got back from hiking Moana Falls Trail, which is a giant waterfall out in the middle of the rainforest here in Honolulu. So just kind of trying to recharge here and go back out, fly back tomorrow morning here from Honolulu back to Phoenix. So gonna have to try and get some last minute things in here while I'm still in Hawaii here, just kind of get it where I can. But back to the fights though. We know that this fight was originally supposed to be Taila Santos versus Erin Blanchfield, but don't know the exact reason, but I know Santos did kind of pull out last minute here, and Andrade was able to step in on short notice. So kudos to Andrade for stepping in on short notice against an opponent ranked pretty low down the rankings in comparison to where she's at. Not diminishing her skills or anything, but just is what it is. It's just a very far down on the list, so she's able to actually kind of step up on last minute and face an up-and-coming prospect here. But yeah, Erin Blanchfield as well, coming off a very big victory in her last fight over Molly McCann on the UFC Izzy versus Pieta card. I forget exactly what number that was, but either way, big card that she was on there and was able to steamroll through Meatball. I mean, really kind of put it to her and punished her, and it could have been stopped earlier in my opinion. I thought it was kind of a late stoppage. I mean, had her in the crucifix, really just kind of took it to her. That's good. But really kind of took it to her there, and really kind of showed that she's ready for kind of the top echelon of that division, because Meatball, even though she might not be great on the ground, she's no punk though. I mean, that girl can fight. We know why she is a fan favorite though, is because of her most recent wins, a spinning elbow knockout of that one lady, I forget her name, my apologies for forgetting her name, in UFC London, and then followed that up with another knockout of Hannah Goldie, trying to do the same spinning elbow, but kind of just KO'd her against the fence. But yeah, either way, this is going to be a great fight. I mean, me personally, I've been an Andrade fan for a while now. I mean, I even was following Andrade's career. She knocked out Carolina, fought Joanna back at the strawweight division, but she is up a weight class now. I mean, she has been kind of sitting at this weight class here. Her last fight, Lauren Murphy, in the fights in Brazil, the Teixeira versus Hill card, really kind of put it on Lauren there. I mean, I think there's some sort of record where Lauren absorbed like the most strikes in female UFC history or something crazy like that. So kudos to Lauren for toughing that out, but it was really oncoming traffic with that one there. Andrade really kind of stuck it to her and gave her the biz in a way. So makes sense that if you're looking at the betting odds, that Andrade is a heavy favorite, but who knows? I mean, you never really see much of Andrade's ground game there because she's so short and stocky and is able to defend the takedown. So, I mean, besides her fight with Valentina, other than that, I mean, you really don't see much of Andrade on the ground unless she's taking there and slamming them in your head a la Rose Namajunas. But honestly, I mean, it was supposed to be Corey Sandhagen versus Chito Vera. Excuse me. For whatever the reason was, Chito Vera and Sandhagen, that got moved later date in March, I believe, end of March. I believe that's in San Antonio as well. Don't quote me on that, but I think that is the location they were moved to. But yeah, I mean, that would have been a great fight to watch, but I'm glad we're getting it in front of a live crowd instead of just the Apex. As much as that would have been awesome to hear all the blows going back and forth between Chito and Sandhagen there, still getting a pretty decent fight, a very high level fight as far as women's MMA goes. But that's kind of just like your main event there. I would expect Andrade to kind of come out and try and test on Blanchfield, since it's like a Blanchfield's first real test in that division. I mean, she's been a staple of the division for a minute now, but this is her chance to break into like the top 5 of Blanchfield wins, which I don't think Andrade is going to really let her. I think Andrade is trying to go for another title victory there, trying to go on another title run. And I think the fight that Shevchenko had with Talia Santos really kind of opened a lot of those girls' eyes in that division to go, oh, there is a way to beat her. Because honestly, if you go back and watch Santos versus Shevchenko there, me personally, I had that for Santos there, but you could have gave it to Shevchenko. I wouldn't have batted an eye at it. It's no big deal. But I mean, Shevchenko is just one of those fighters there where you're going to have to beat her to take her crown there. I mean, she's just so good everywhere, which makes this very interesting, because if Blanchfield is able to go out there and kind of just destroy Andrade and take her down and do what she did to Meatball on the way, I mean, you got your next title contender right there. Because I mean, she was fighting the #1 contender in Talia Santos. She's not fighting a new contender that's outside of the top 5 or even maybe inside the top 5. I believe Andrade's like #3 at the moment right now. So she's not going backwards by any means. She's still going upwards, still within the top 5. So you get a top 5 win in emphatic fashion, you definitely should be looking at a title shot. And I mean, especially with that win, aforementioned Molly Meatball McCann, it makes sense. I mean, she kind of gained more of a following there because a lot of people were rooting for Meatball, and for her to go out there and just dust Meatball like she did, I mean, that warrants some type of just credibility and just overall just recognition. So I think it's going to be a good fight as well too. I mean, if I had to guess, I think Andrade does what Andrade does. No disrespect to Blanchfield. I mean, Andrade's just a powerhouse, especially for that division. Not many girls who can hang with Andrade, especially with her power, her takedown defense, or her overall just athleticism and just speed. And I mean, for being a shorter fighter as well too, I mean, it's going to kind of work in Andrade's kind of game plan there, because Blanchfield is shooting for double legs and stuff like that. She's going to have to get real low to get under those hips of Andrade to get her down. So expect, I would say, Blanchfield to kind of maybe pull some trips up against the fence, or maybe a single leg, but I wouldn't expect in the middle of the octagon to have Blanchfield shooting any double legs or anything like that. But I'm going to have to say that Andrade probably gets it done there. I mean, part of me wants to say KO, but I mean, her last fight, Laura Murphy, went all 3 rounds, beat the piss out of her, but at the same time, though, that's just Laura Murphy. She's one of the toughest girls in the UFC, if not in MMA. I mean, she took that kind of punishment from Andrade. You should definitely be getting rocked at some point, but either way, that's one of the better fights on that card there. I didn't really get a chance to take a look at the card in-depthly there, just because, I mean, I'm out here on vacation, so been kind of busy here at the moment, but I at least thought I'd get some sort of a video out there. I know it's not going to be a super long video or anything like that. There's a bird walking up next to me right now. What's up, little birdie? What's up, dude? He probably thinks I have food or something like that, but I don't. I'm sorry, little pigeon. But, oh, there's another bird. Anyways, not to get sidetracked. Another fight that I saw on this card that's coming up here that I think is going to be very fun to watch, and kind of just shows you where each of these fighters are at in their career-wise. Alex Hernandez versus Jim Miller. I know Alex Hernandez just tried his hand at 145, but then against Billy Quarantillo, and it didn't really go his way. Got TKO'd, I believe. Yeah, it was a great fight, though. I mean, it was great leading up to it, but also kind of similar. I mean, once Billy started getting going, it was one-way traffic there. I mean, Billy just was landing strike after strike after strike. And I think the weight cut that Hernandez tried to do maybe kind of was at a deficit there because of the extreme weight cut. He wasn't at his full athletic abilities there, and maybe had a little bit less of a chin than he normally does. I mean, we've seen Hernandez finish before, Cerrone, things like that, but that one was just kind of like just beat him up pretty bad to where he kind of just couldn't take anymore there, which, I mean, no fighter wants to get knocked out, but no fighter also wants to quit either. So Hernandez is a very tough dude, but Jim Miller, though, is a veteran in the game. I mean, just finished Cowboy Cerrone in his retirement fight, so I would say Jim Miller's feeling pretty good about himself. I mean, I know it's not the Cerrone that we're all used to seeing and knowing, but still, I mean, you just beat Cowboy Cerrone, so still a very talented guy in that division there. But I'm excited to see how Hernandez does up at his probably his preferred weight class if I had to guess there. I mean, he's just too big for 45. I think he just carries too much mass to make that weight cut. So if I had to guess, I would say Jim Miller still gets the win there just because he is a crafty vet. And I mean, Hernandez is a vet of the UFC now, but there's still some things that he does that do get him in trouble a little bit. So I would expect Jim Miller to kind of exploit some of those things there and use it to his advantage. So I don't know what the odds are, but if I had to bet, which I usually try not to bet on the fights. I mean, if you looked at my last couple bet slips on DraftKings, I'm not doing too hot right now. I'm not doing too hot. I mean, maybe DraftKings could sponsor me so I could get some of that money back. That'd be great. DraftKings, if you're listening, I would love to be a sponsor for you guys there. But yeah, I'm not doing too great in the betting realm, so I'm going to try and stay away from that here a little bit. But if you are planning on betting on this fight card, would kind of recommend leaning more towards the Jim Miller and Andrade parlay there. They're probably both favorites if I had to guess there, since Miller's coming off a win, Andrade is coming off a win, and she's a higher ranked opponent than Blanchfield is. So the odds may not be that great to your liking, but if you're looking to win some money there. But like I said, I mean, I didn't really look that much into the card just because I really have been busy on vacation there. I just took a moment to get a video out there just so I'm not leaving any of you guys hanging. If you are following and subscribing, make sure to like and do so if you like the content and you enjoy the MMA talks that I give here. And I know it's not the normal background that you're used to seeing if you have been watching videos. I know there's only episode 3, so while still being bashful, I just still wanted to make sure I'm getting some sort of content on here because, like I said, I just started this podcast. I'm just trying to get it up and going here, trying to get the views rolling. Doing it on my iPhone. I really have my iPhone like hanging on my hydro flash, leaning against the window at the hotel that was staying in. So doing what I can to talk about the sport that I like. So hopefully you guys like it and I can continue doing this here. I'm not looking to make money off of it or anything like that. I'm just doing it because I like to, and it's fun for me. But same time though, another thing here, still keeping in the same sports related, but hold on. Got another ambulance. I'm not sure if you guys can hear that or not because I do have my AirPods in, but there's another ambulance making its way downtown. It's walking fast. Well, faces past and it's homebound. Insert piano riff. Okay, it's done. But another thing I did want to talk about is Dan Hooker. Looks like Dan Hooker's a little bit fired up over Islam Makhachev's win over Volkanovski. I mean, making sense, and Hooker and Volkanovski are both from the same country there, same countrymen. Seem to be friendly. I would say that they might even be friends as well too. But it looks like he's kind of throwing him under the bus there about some IV accusations for the weight cut, which now I don't know if these are true or not. I'm not going to side with one or the other, but if it's true, that'd be major for the lightweight division there. I mean, if they do an investigation and it comes to find out that Makhachev did use IVs to make the weight cut or at least to replenish, because if you remember, I remember watching deeply at that weigh-in there because I know Makhachev is a big guy. So I was kind of like, oh, will he make weight? Will he not make weight? He did make weight, but I mean, it's not out of the realm of possibility that he maybe needed a little bit extra help after the fact to kind of replenish and get himself back up there, which, I mean, honestly, these guys are draining themselves right to the doorstep of death, as Joe Rogan would say, if that's exactly what he would say. I'm kind of paraphrasing, but I mean, there should be some sort of ruling on IVs. Yes, not an excessive amount or anything crazy, but I feel like just taking them out altogether is just kind of like you're getting a watered down product almost. I mean, that was a great fight and everything like that, but if he didn't use an IV and he fought like that, great. He fought Volkanovski very well. He won the fight. I'm not going to go over the scorecards again because still I'm on the Volkanovski train. But at the same time, though, if he did use an IV and he did fight that great, there you don't have a watered down product anymore. But just imagine how much better Volkanovski would have fought if he did use an IV. Now, if he didn't, and that's how he performed, great. But if he were to use one, how much better would his performance would have been? Would have been a more decisive victory? wouldn't have not gone to the judges' scorecards? We'll never know. But at the same time, though, I know there's been certain cases with fighters from back in the day that are using IVs, I mean, a la Johnny Hendricks and whatnot, that were cutting serious amounts of weight there to make a certain weight class. But I mean, at the same time, though, wouldn't you want them to be healthier if they're about to 24 hours about to go into a cage match and fight each other almost to the brink of death? I mean, you would kind of want to protect your fighters in a way, which, I mean, I understand the ruling just from a fairness standpoint and everything like that, but you might see guys that, like Dan Hooker, per se. I mean, he went down to 45 and fought Arnold Allen. I mean, even in his earlier career, it started out kind of at 45. If he was using an IV when he first started out in the UFC at 45 when he fought Arnold Allen, maybe he would have performed better. Maybe he might have not got TKO'd by Arnold Allen in the first round. Maybe he would have been able to take it on the chin a little bit better rather than getting kind of smushed really early on in those fights there. So you never know. I mean, stuff like that, it's kind of hard to say what if, just because what if never really happens. But in these kind of scenarios there, I kind of side on fighter safety and health. I mean, if everybody's using IVs, is anybody really cheating? I mean, it seems like it would be the most fair. Just let them use IVs. I feel like you should require IVs, but then have it regulated by USADA or the UFC to have a certain amount of fluids that you get put back in you. Because, I mean, you don't want a guy overdoing it or maybe even, like, slipping something in there and being able to piss his way out since it's getting loaded up with fluids and whatnot. I know that was kind of a thought back in the day there. I'm not sure if it holds any merit. But at the same time, though, I want these guys fighting at their best. Just from a fan standpoint, I want these guys fighting at their healthiest. I want the best performances. And I want to see who's really the best. I don't want to see who recharged the best after a weight cut and then go into the fight and then be, oh, I won the fight. But who knows? The other guy you might have fought might have been in the deficit because of how much weight he had to cut. Might be certain fights that, if we go back maybe somewhat recently, like for instance, like Paulo Costa versus Marvin Vettori, maybe Costa could have gotten closer to the 185 weight limit if he knew he was going to be able to have an IV. Because if you remember that, they kind of stopped him from weight cutting and they said, all right, let's do it at 205. And then Costa was like, I'm not going to make 205. Now, at that kind of weight difference there, it is kind of on the fighter to be on weight. Like, hey, I mean, you signed a contract for a certain weight class. You've made it before. What's stopping you from making it again? I do kind of side on the commission's point of there being like, hey, we're going to fine you. I forget what X amount of percentage it was, but it was a pretty hefty amount that went to Marvin Vettori. And then also, he lost the fight too, so Marvin got win, show, and a percentage of Paulo Costa's show money. So, I mean, that was probably not a fun weekend for Costa. But, who knows? Maybe if Costa knew he was going to be able to use an IV, he might have been able to actually make the weight, or at least try to get closer. I mean, 220 to 185, you're talking about 35 pounds there. It's a pretty steep weight cut. I mean, if I had to guess, I think maybe Costa walks around at like 220, if I had to guess there. So he may be not even a cut weight, but that's besides the fact. The main thing is if they do an investigation and it comes to find out that Makhachev did use an IV for the Volkanovski fight there, they may strip him. Then you have your interim or your vacant title fight. Maybe Volkanovski fights for that, fights the winner of Beneil versus Charles for the vacant belt. If Makhachev, if it does come back that he did use an IV and they decide to strip him, that could shake up the division. And then who knows how long Makhachev will be out for. If he's out for a serious long amount of time, it might give Volkanovski enough time to get at least a title defense under his belt if that scenario does play out where Beneil and Charles do fight, he fights the winner of that fight, Volkanovski beats that winner, then you got your new champion. He might get like Dustin, he might get Connor and Chandler, he might get Gaethje or Fiziev, something crazy like that. So it's just a wild time for the lightweight division in general here. So it's a really fun time to be an MMA fan. I mean, there's a lot of stuff going on here. If you want to kind of see just more, I mean, I'm sure if you have a Twitter and you are an MMA fan, you probably follow most of the bigger headlines out there or bigger names that have a Twitter that you get your news from. But hey, man, if you follow me, I'm going to be kind of trying to get my finger on the pulse as well too of what's going on as well. So I mean, don't leave little old me out there to have no followers. I mean, I'm trying to build a brand here. I'm just trying to get, not necessarily recognition, but I'm just trying to get a following going. I'm just trying to do what I love for the sport I love, and just talk to people that also love doing it. Like, speaking of, the other day I'm out here in Hawaii, and my girlfriend, she's a lovely woman, she books this catamaran cruise, which is basically just you're on a boat with a bunch of other people, and you kind of go for like an hour and a half out in the ocean. There's all you can drink. There's some booze on board. We had a very good time there. Maybe too good of a time, but ran into this guy named Kit. Kit, if you're watching this, it was fun drinking with you. This man's from Australia, born and raised in the UK, but lives in Australia now. Doesn't really watch MMA, but I just was talking to him, and I was like, what do you think about Volkanovski? Just as soon as I said Volkanovski, kind of started going off. Oh man, I love Volkanovski. That guy's the man. I watched the Makhachev fight. I thought he won that fight. And that's even coming from a guy who doesn't really watch UFC from what I'm saying. He said he's more of a rugby and soccer guy, or Europe and Australia, if you call it football. I'll try and get the correct wording there. Don't want to be disrespectful. I know it was originally called football, and then we kind of Americans were like, well, we have a football. Let's call it soccer, which just spell it different at this point, just to get rid of the confusion. But either way, there, talking to him about it, and MMA is picking up all over the world there. He said he lives in Sydney, but he wanted to go to Perth, but wouldn't be able to make it and come to Hawaii at the same time there, so just kind of picked Hawaii over Perth, which I get. I mean, if you already live in Australia, might as well just go visit somewhere else that you haven't been to yet, from what he was saying. But at the same time, though, he's a very nice guy there. Australia seems to be picking up quite a bit with the fans and everything like that. I mean, he was talking to me about Tuivasa. He was like, oh, I love Tuivasa. And apparently, from what I learned, the shoey has been around for quite a long time, which is fucking disgusting. That's foul. I thought it was kind of a newer thing that started out, and I was like, all right, they'll kind of find out how gross it is, and they'll stop doing it. No, it's been around forever, apparently. That makes me sad. But regardless of that, it's a growing sport. Just trying to get everyone to enjoy it. But, I mean, anybody I talk to that likes sports, I always recommend watching MMA. If they haven't, if they have, I always try and give them like at least a heads up. I'm like, hey, if you want to get more into MMA, here's a fight I would recommend watching that's coming up. A fight that's already happened. If you have ESPN Plus, go back and watch. Or even like YouTube has YouTube free fights that the UFC posted. There's free fights that are on there that you can go back and watch as well too. So many ways to consume the media there. But feel free to like and subscribe this video here. Like the channel, or subscribe to the channel, like the video. Just gonna keep doing more of these here. I mean, I probably won't be able to watch the fight because I'll be on a plane for 7 hours to go back home tomorrow, so I might have to watch it when I get home. At least the Hernandez and Blanchfield fight, I don't know if I'll watch the entire card, just because I don't have to unpack and do laundry and everything like that, the grocery shopping. So we'll see how much time I have in order to kind of just get a video out of what I thought went down there, and just who I think matches up best for this fighters that I talked about for the Mexican card. And who knows, you might hear something about Makhachev somewhat soon to know exactly what is going on with that camp, and to kind of know what to expect in the upcoming days here. If there is an investigation, and he did end up doing it. If he didn't end up doing it, it's just Dan Hooker blowing smoke up everyone's ass because he's salty. Who knows? All I know is this is the fastest growing sport in the world. If you want to follow me on Twitter, it's at Seeing Red MMA. Again, at Seeing Red MMA. It's at twitter.com. Feel free to drop a follow there, like and subscribe to the video. And until next time, probably get a post-fight video out Sunday, hopefully. I'm thinking, probably, maybe. I have Monday off from work too, so I might take that day to kind of do a little bit deeper dive, but depending on what I got going on, might have to do it Sunday and just get a little shorter version. But had to draw this one a little bit out, talk about some other things other than just the upcoming card, just to get the full amount of time I wanted to in this video. But yeah, you guys have a good one. I'm gonna go enjoy the rest of the time I have here. I leave for Phoenix tomorrow morning, so I'm gonna go get a nice dinner. I I think there's going to be like a fireworks show going down on the beach, so we might go and watch that. But yeah, if you guys are ever looking for a great vacation spot and you like tropical environments and you like the beach and you like warm ocean water, Honolulu, Hawaii is the place to be. Alright guys, this is Dustin with Seeing Red, signing off I guess. I don't know really how to end these, I'll work on it, but yeah, I'll get this video uploaded shortly. Thanks guys.